Now my next stop in Moscow, and perhaps the one that I'm most excited about, is the Vadim Zadorozhny Museum. Now this is a private collector's museum, and within the museum you've got cars, you've got airplanes, you have tanks, you have rockets, and you have television sets, you have everything that is possibly worth collecting. Now the museum is divided into section by section, and this particular section is all about the beginning of automotive. You kind of start over here with the Dion-Bouton, which was of course one of the largest automotive manufacturers at the beginning of the 1900s, and then it kind of goes on, and then we're going to have a look at some Model T Fords and so on and so forth. So for example, there's a Holsman, which is an American brand. The Dion-Bouton vis-a-vis is a particularly interesting car, produced in 1899 and 1902, and the reason it's called vis-a-vis is because the car, you had two kind of seats that were facing each other. The Dion-Bouton, by far the largest manufacturer of cars and engines in particular. And I actually had the pleasure of doing a car video with my dear friend Tom Boyd in the UK not long ago, where we filmed an Astal, a 1906 Astal, 117 years old, let's not forget. And that car actually had the Dion-Bouton engine. Now, kind of, let's move forward here. There is a wonderful Renault AX Tourer. This car is from 1908, produced until 1914. Again, preserved in perfect condition. A whopping 8 horsepower under the bonnet. This really was a wonderful car. It's a Renault, but with a Union Jack right at the front. It had a 1100cc engine. Minerva was a Belgian company, a rather elaborate model over here, model S26 CV. I think, as you can see from here, it looks just like a horse and carriage, where the driver kind of sits bearing the conditions, the rain, whatever might be happening, but the VIPs, the owners, sit in the back, and it's quite simply a work of art, this car. Again, you have a Dion-Bouton Type AX, 15 horsepower. Now they've almost doubled the horsepower with this one, produced in 1908. Again, when you look at it, it's basically a motorized chassis at the bottom, and on top it is a carriage, a kind of a coach build. Rolls-Royce still do them today, you know, with the with their coach build division. They still, you can kind of, you know, choose a chassis, usually the Phantom, and then you kind of coach build on top with complete bespoke options that you can have. Wonderful, wonderful cars. A Renault Type AIB35 CV from 1906. Simply magnificent. And I want to kind of take you over here. We have some more classic cars over here, and then perhaps the one started it all, the Ford Model T. This is a Cadillac music truck, it's called. Apparently this was some kind of entertainment truck back in the day. It had an organ at the back of it, so perhaps used for religious ceremonies, something like that, but a very, very elaborate car over here. And then you have different Fords here, a Ford Model A, another Ford Model T, which was a fire truck, a Hotchkiss, again, a wonderful model. It's a Berliner de Voyage, built in Art Deco style, it says. And the cars just keep on going on and on. You have some smaller brands here, the Packard, which was defunct some years ago, many years ago, as a matter of fact, I think at the end of the 40s. A Rio, a Buick. Oh wow, okay, let's have a look at this. Buick is one of my favorite brands, as a matter of fact. This is a Model 44 from 1929. Only 6,195 of them were built, that's what it says. Should do your homework better, Alp. Lozier over here, and the Wanderer. So these are some of the old cars we've got over here. Now the museum is full of some of the best and well-kept cars I have ever seen in my life, and they're divided section by section. For example, here we start with a magnificent Alfa Romeo 8C2900B, built in the 1937 from 1937 to 39. They're displayed in magnificent fashion. And then you have an array of Alfa Romeos here, some more, you know. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they are maintained perfectly. So I'll just kind of roll with the camera and then, you know, show you a couple. This is Emilia Edition 6C 2300. A wonderful, wonderful car that was around between 1934 and 1939. Then you move on to a Sport Freccia d'Oro. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Again, a wonderful car from 1946. Kind of, it looks like brand new. It looks like it was taken out of the factory moments ago. And then the cars kind of just go on and on and on. And then over here you have the De La Haye cars, rather. Wonderful examples here, all kind of lined up. You know, if I was to go through these, each car one by one, it would take me hours and hours. But, you know, we'll put some nice B-roll in there so you can see what we're looking at over here all together. But what I want to do is, let's start by walking this way. And then here, you've got the ultra luxurious, the wonderfully luxurious cars. So for example, there's a wonderful, wonderful, fantastic Cadillac here. It's a Cadillac V16. Now, back in the day, from 1930 until 1940, this was quite simply the most luxurious car Cadillac had ever produced. It was very exclusive. Only over 4,000 models, 4,076 were ever produced. And when 1940 came, with the start of the Second World War, unfortunately, production ceased. And this is one of the very, very rare examples. Same goes for the Cadillac V16 Fleetwood. Again, produced between 1930 and 40. Let me have a look. This was only produced, let's have a look. Again, just under 4,000 of these, 3,687 to be precise. And again, production ceased when the Second World War came. Now I want to move your attention to the Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost. This is a boat tail tourer. It was an experimental model that the Rolls-Royce brand produced. Very few ever made it out there. I'm going to tell you exactly. So it had 50 brake horsepower, a max speed of 120 kilometers, built in the UK naturally in 1923. And again, very, very few, only 50 were ever built. It was an experimental model. And again, this is one of the very few surviving models. Now we come to the mighty Maybach. Again, this Maybach produced in 1935, a wonderful, wonderful car with 140 brake horsepower, huge horsepower for those days. And of course, production again with the Second World War, it stops. This one in 1941 to be precise. Only 850 units ever produced. What a magnificent collection, just these few cars over here. Then we can move on to the Mercedes 320 Cabriolet F, produced in 37, only for 4 years. A wonderful car, 77 horsepower, a little bit more, about 7,000 units of this produced, a top speed of 125 kilometers. And then here, perhaps one of my favorite cars of all time, the 320 Pullman Limousine, again from 37 to 42, only 77 horsepower, but a mighty 125 brake. 125 kilometers rather was the top speed. Again, a wonderful, wonderful car. I mean, just over here, these ones that we see are some of the rarest and most wonderful cars known to man. And for the museum, it just keeps on going on and on and on. Now, along the Mercedes cars, you've got the BMWs over here, from BMW motorbikes to BMW 327 Coupe and many, many more. Wonderful. A hardtop over here, a convertible soft top over there. I mean, look, we'll just kind of keep on going. A BMW 329 over here, a wonderful, wonderful car with huge history. It was only produced for 2 years, but, as I can see from here, only 1,011 units were produced. And just looking at it, it is just magnificent. You know, I'm having trouble finding the words to kind of describe it. We've got some more here. Again, the Horch Pullman over here, and then the Mercedes 320 Pullman over here. Fantastic, fantastic cars. The Horch, of course, was a German brand and produced between well, from the 20s until I think in 1956, 55, they were defunct. So that was when they were done with it. Again, let's move on over here. Let me show you some more BMWs, the BMW 326 Wandler, as they call it in German. And then you've got the 327 and 328 Cabrio with a top closed and the top open. This museum has so many variations of these cars. They can literally display it with the top on and the top off. Some wonderful Mercedes over here as well. You see you've got the top on over there and a different one with the top off over there. I realize I'm not being very technical about the cars, but you know, I'm just really enjoying the show over here. And of course, well, here we go. Let's go over here. There's a wonderful BMW here, a BMW Dixie DA2 from 1929. A very small car. The leather looks like it was literally polished yesterday. A very compact car. I guess this is less than 2 meters long, but a beautiful, beautiful car. Just have a look at that. Over here, again, an array of beautiful cars. But what I want to do is, I want to start and show you, well, continue to show you some of these fantastic cars. I have a couple of Mercedes-Benz here, 170 Cabriolet A from 1936, 108 kilometers an hour top speed. Here you have 3 of the same, and very shortly I'm going to tell you what they are. They are the Horch 930V Cabriolet. There we go. This is the Horch 853A Special Roadster. Only 7 were ever made, and 2 of them happen to be at this wonderful museum. So you can imagine how rare these cars are. They look absolutely stunning. And I'll tell you a little bit about them. Max speed of 135 kilometers, 120 brake horsepower. They weigh about 2 tons. As I said, only 7 were made out of Germany between 1937 and 1939. Horch 830BL, only 100 made, 92 horsepower, 135 kilometers an hour. This one, only 401 units were made, quite an odd number, 401, 135 kilometers an hour, 120 brake horsepower. A wonderful, wonderful car made in 1936. Horch had a large presence at the 1935 Berlin Motor Show, which was opened by none other than Adolf Hitler, as his party leaders were also present at the event. So maybe not something to brag about, but here it is. Those are the facts. That's another 930V Cabriolet. This BMW is simply fantastic, and it looks like it's the main event over here, the way they've done it with the spotlights and all. This is, of course, a BMW 328 from 1936 with a whopping 80 horsepower and a fantastic top speed of 150 kilometers an hour. Well, check this out. BMW Dixie DA3 Wartburg from 1931. Very interesting car. 75 kilometers an hour, only 15 horsepower, a kind of a mini sports car, but a fantastic sports car. And I'll give you an idea of the museum. This is only this floor. This is the ground floor that you can see over here. Simply fantastic. Well, time to go downstairs and check out some Soviet cars.